Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Josh Goodman from Eastern Oregon University. Welcome, Coach.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, thanks for joining. Hopefully, it's a nice day out there in Oregon. You and I couldn't be almost farther apart with me down here in Bradenton, Florida, but that's the beauty of the internet, right?
Yes, I'm sure your weather is a little bit better than ours currently, but
You mean it's not sunny in 85 where you're at?
not sunny in 85 where we're
Okay.
at.
All right.
Beautiful.
Well, we won't hold that against you. It's all right. Well, you know what? I know. Well, congratulations. I know you've been the assistant there, but just became the head coach here recently. So congratulations, first of all. And I guess the way I'll start the interview is with a question: How has it been recruiting, going from assistant to head and kind of being new head coach? How's that working out for you?
It's been pretty smooth transition. Over the last 2 years, I was our recruiting coordinator as the assistant, so I was doing a lot of it already. So it was kind of just picking up where I was already at. But also, I've definitely gotten more emails and different things, as the head coach. So it's been exciting, and I love recruiting. It's one of my favorite parts of the job. Is I get to go watch soccer and talk soccer 24/7. So it's great.
Yeah. Well, in terms of this cycle, we're talking here in March of 23. Are you closed? Have you closed your 23 class? You still working on it? What does that look like in terms of your normal progression?
We're pretty close to closing for 23. We have a few spots left, but we also very comfortable with where we're at with our roster. So it's kind of a, if there's someone that comes along that we feel can make an immediate impact, we've got those spots, but we are not necessarily, actively looking for 23s. We've kind of turned towards our 24s, but anytime you can get better, if you've got a spot open, you want to get better. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you said one of the things you like doing is watching soccer. So, in your recruiting exploits, what are some of the places that you are kind of always on your list as to where to go see players?
So obviously being up in Oregon, we are in the Pacific Northwest quite a bit. Anytime that we can get to a GA or an ECNL or ECRL showcase in the area, we try to get to it. We go down into Utah quite a bit to watch games. Colorado, we're active there. So basically, the way that our school is set up, we have what's called the WUI, the Western Underground Exchange Program. So it's basically like from Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, Montana, like over to the west. We have discounted tuition for everybody that falls in there. So typically we recruit within in that region, but we're not opposed to going outside of the region. But typically, that's where we're hanging out, going to lots of different events. I'll be at the Players Showcase in Vegas this upcoming weekend, Surf Cup, any of the state cups, showcases.
Yeah, it's I know I've heard a few folks I've talked to getting ready to go out to the players in Vegas. What about camps? Do you guys host your own? Do you or your staff work external camps? Do they factor into your recruiting at all?
Definitely. So typically we have a camp in the winter, springish, and then the fall. Through the coaching change, we didn't get to host our typical February camp. We've moved it to May. So May 27th, we'll be having an ID camp day. It's a bit smaller than it usually is, but we wanted to get something in. And then we'll have one end of August, beginning of September timeline for our normal fall camp that we will usually do. So we do 2 a year. As far as external camps, we work a lot of the club ones that we are close by. We're going to Idaho, go to the west side of Oregon quite a bit. In the past, I've worked some in Utah. So we do try and get into those. We trying to get into the exact camps, and we've had invites, but it just falls every time we get an invite. We're playing a spring game or we're gone. So, but we are planning on getting into some of those as well.
Okay. Well, it is as times have changed in the college recruiting world, there's a bigger use of social media, players putting stuff out there. Does that factor into your recruiting at all? Or are you looking at players' social media? How does that fit in?
Yeah. So I was kind of um, I graduated high school in 2014, and it was kind of going into that era where social media was starting to be evaluated a lot more. And now in present day, it's I get 5 or 6 new followers a day that are players that have, their team, their position, where they're from, all located in their bio. They've got highlight tapes. So, it does make it convenient sometimes. We actually have found 2 players on Twitter that have followed us, and we've seen their highlight tape, and then, they've reached out, and it's definitely unique, but it's there, so why not use it? We There's been multiple times where I've been sitting at an airport or something, and I've just tweeted out like, hey, I've got time, send film to my email, and I'll get 5 to 10 highlight tapes, and I'll sit there and I'll evaluate. And so that it definitely has changed the way that we engage with people. And obviously, as far as the recruiting side, if you're looking at social media and there's some red flags on there, it can be harmful to the recruits. But I've found that it's very, very rare that we are seeing that. I don't think we've had any issues with any of our recruits via social media so far, but I can see why it could be a concern, but it hasn't been for us so far.
Okay. Well, whether it's at a camp or showcase or anything like that, what what is it that draws you to a player? What's that hierarchy of things you're looking for, whether it's off the field attributes or on the field stuff?
Um, so I mean, we're pretty thorough. But for me, it's the little things when I'm looking at players. Are they getting their body shape right? Are they getting their hips facing the right direction when they're receiving the ball? Are they checking their shoulder to see where the space is? Those little things are often the difference makers from club and high school to playing at the college level. And then beyond that, it's kind of positional, but we like vocal players, players that can take over a game and kind of organize and do some different things like that. And then our conference is very physical, so not necessarily size, but the ability to handle physicality. We've got some small girls in our team, but they're not afraid to get stuck in and play that physical style of soccer. But we also put the ball down and we try to play. We build out of the back. We're big on our rotations and our build up play. So lastly is being able to do all those things and then keep composed under pressure. Like if someone's in your face, can you find a way out? And just different things like that. So
Okay. Well, in terms of recruiting, the NAIA, a lot of times you see a lot of international players, but it doesn't look like you guys are huge on the international recruiting scene. So does international recruiting or the transfer portal factor into your recruiting at all?
Um, so, like I said, there's a lot of schools in the AI that are heavily international. We don't have any currently on our roster, and it's more to do with the financial side, because, like I said, even for people in the United States, once they get out of that kind of WUI area that we talked about, our tuition price goes pretty high. So we just tend to, find what we can in our area, and we believe in the developmental piece and developing players. I mean, obviously, we've had a lot of success in the 4 years that I've been on the staff. We've made nationals twice. We've been in the top 10 at the final site twice. And the 2 years that we didn't make nationals, we still won 11 games and 12 games those 2 seasons. Last year we won 12 games, had 14 shutouts in 19 games. So I mean, we were very successful at what we were doing, and we fell probably 1 game short of getting into the tournament, which hurt. But we believe in what we have in our area and going out and finding it, and giving people a chance. And oftentimes when you're in the transfer portal, um, the NAI, kind of has a little bit of a stigma against it, and you hear it all the time, which I never understood, because some of the best soccer I've seen played is in the NAI, and those top teams in the NAI can play with anybody, and you see it in the spring and stuff. We've played D1s and D2s in the spring, and we've held our own. And obviously in the spring maybe people aren't playing their full lineups, but neither are we all the time. So it's we're very comparable with those D2s, I think. And I think a lot of people would have more options if they were a little bit more open-minded about the NAI, and even junior colleges. I played at the junior college as well. So I think people often have that, that big school mentality, which is nothing wrong with that. I don't want to bash that at all. Like if you have that dream, by all means chase that dream. But I think my thing is just for anybody is where are you going to be happy? Where are you going to enjoy life and soccer? Because your 4 years of soccer are going to end. So is it going to set you up for what you want in your life? And there's a lot of really nice NAIA schools across the country that have great educations and different things. So not just for Eastern Oregon, but for the NAIA in general, I'm hoping to kind of break through that stigma that goes against it.
Yeah, no, I love that. Absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the school. I'm sure there's some folks out there not familiar with Eastern Oregon University. So you've got a good insight having been the assistant coach, now the head coach. So what are some of the things you find that are really awesome about the school that maybe I'm not going to learn just by clicking through the website?
One is the community support. It's a smaller town, but it means that every athletic event is flooded with the community. In the sense, I've always felt like it's almost like a small town professional team, because the community doesn't have much else, as far as like your bigger cities. And then the environment, we are big on outdoorsy stuff. It's gorgeous scenery. We've got lakes and hikes and snowboarding any direction you go. So we are kind of isolated, but if are open minded, it's a really fun place to be. We have classes that are offered: mountain climbing, mountain biking, whitewater river rafting, snowboarding. These are all credits that our athletes can take, and you're getting graded to go snowboard down a mountain and have a good time. You're mountain biking and you're getting grades for that. So those are some unique features that the school can offer that you may not get in a bigger city, when you're going. And there's obviously perks to that as well, but we you know those are probably the two main things that you're not going to see too much of if you're scrolling through. As far as the school itself, we have most programs that you would want. We have a really good nursing program, which is big. Exercise science, business, math, biochem, all these different things. So we we have almost everything that people are looking for, which is really nice when it comes to recruiting too, because for the most part, we've got something for just about everybody.
Okay. Well, with academics being such a, big part of the college experience besides the soccer part, uh, how does your school support the students in making sure they have that balance as to what they need to do academically as well as athletically?
Yeah, so we, being a smaller school that's big on athletics, all of our professors are great when it comes to working with our students. We have a policy where if you're missing for games or whatever, you have to be given the opportunity to make up whatever work that you're missing. Which it helps with the stress levels for our girls. If they're missing class, they know that they're not losing points, so they're not missing out on anything. We have an awesome counseling center where they can just go and focus on different things as far as stress and mental health, because that becomes a big piece of being a college athlete. Is you're trying to balance school and sports, so making sure that they have the support they need to get through that. We have tutors available for not just our athletes but everybody on campus. We actually have a couple girls who work as tutors because they get paid to do it, which is nice. um, we do study hall as a team, and then our library has study rooms that you can get into that have whiteboards in there. And any given time I'll go in there and see 4 or 5 of our girls, depending on their majors, working together. As far as like the athletic, like soccer, we try to practice either 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. That way our girls have all day to get whatever classes, labs that they need to get, and we're not interfering with the school part at all. We're not trying to give them, hey, we're practicing at 1, so you've got to schedule your classes around this. We try, school first, get your classes, and then we'll work around that.
Okay. Well, and that kind of leads me to my next question. You mentioned practice time. Can you just think about the fall and kind of walk me through what a typical week would look like in terms of what winter practice times, class times, meals, the game cadence, all that kind of thing?
Yeah, so we are in a pretty cool, what I think is pretty cool is we are on the quarter system. So when we report on August 1st, which is usually our report date, we don't start class until the middle of September. So when we're going through our preseason, and we take one big preseason trip a year. Last year we went to Florida. We've been to Arizona, Nebraska. This year we're going to Tennessee and Kentucky. We don't miss any class for that because we haven't started. Some of our girls will be in summer classes, but they're all online, so they can do them wherever we're traveling to. And if we have a few doing that, we will make sure that we have time at the hotel, downtime so that they can get what they need to get done. But for our girls that are coming in, it's a nice transition because you're not thrown right into school and soccer. You kind of get a taste of the soccer, and then school kicks in a little bit later. So the first couple of weeks, we are doing 2-a-days, but it can look differently. Some days it's 2 sessions. Some days it's a session and a film session. Some days it's a session and weights. And typically, we share our field with the men's team. So one of us will go probably 8 a.m. The other one will go at 10. And then we'll both be back in the evening, typically one at 4 and one at 6. And then as school kind of starts, and we get into games, about towards the end of August, we go down to one practice a day, and it will typically be that 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. just to kind of get into the routine. Once school starts, the conference starts the same week, which is, kind of nice. It just works out that way. We play Friday, Saturday, in our conference, which can be brutal, but it does mean that we're not missing too much class. If we're at home, we're not missing any class because games are at 4 and 6:30. Our conference, the men and the women travel together. They play back to back. So last year we played first at 4. This upcoming year we'll play second at 6:30, and that's our home game. Sometimes if you're on the road, the game times change, but it's same format. So we'll practice Monday through Thursday, games Friday, Saturday, Sundays off. And we usually have a film session and a weight session just to maintain throughout the week, but nothing crazy. The weight session is just more injury prevention, different things like that.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the team and the soccer side of things. But Friday, Saturday can be kind of brutal. So, what does that do for your roster? How many players do you like to typically keep on the team each year that you find is ideal?
So we usually try to stay right around 30. Obviously, it's changed a little bit in the last few years with our COVID seniors because we're not losing the same amount every year. So last year we were still at 31. This upcoming year, I anticipate being right at 33. So we will never go over 35. I mean, that's the absolute most, and even that we kind of like that. That's a lot for us. So 30 to 33 is usually our range. And we in the CCC, which is the conference we compete in, I think statistically, I know most times we are often the team that goes the furthest into our bench. If you kind of go and look at, who's making the most subs, we go 8, 9 deep into our bench, sometimes more. And if you look at the whole week collectively, we're playing, 18 to 24 girls depending on the weeks because we have a lot of depth and we believe in staying fresh. So sometimes there's one group that plays more on a Friday and one group that plays more on a Saturday. Sometimes it's just one group that plays more collectively. It kind of just depends on matchups and who we're going against. And we also believe sometimes that if it's not broke, you don't fix it. So if things are going really well, and when we communicate this with our girls is that maybe you didn't play as much as you wanted to, but it might not be anything that you're doing wrong. It just might be that the group that's in is doing exactly what needs to be done. And our girls have really bought into that. Our culture is very much team first, and that we over me, which I know a lot of coaches will say, but ours, I truly believe that they're here for the reasons to get us back to the national tournament this upcoming year. So being one game short last year didn't really sit right with a lot of the girls, especially when we were very close to even getting an at-large bid, and if you ask the girls, I think they feel like maybe we should have and we didn't. So there's a little bit of a chip on the shoulder, and we'll see what happens this fall. But they're working harder than they've ever worked before. I think they're hungrier than they've been, and it's fun to see the players take over and kind of set the mindset. Because when the coaches do it, it can only go so far. When it becomes player led, that's when I think really good things happen.
Yeah, for sure. Well, obviously you've now moved from assistant to head coach. So can you just give me a brief overview of what the rest of your staff looks like? What roles does everybody play, et cetera?
Yeah, so we kind of, as of right now, we kind of bumped up just one spot each. So I, took over for Jake as the head coach, and then Morgan, who played here, she's the program's all-time leading goal scorer. She was a volunteer assistant last year. She's now stepped into the assistant role. And then we are currently, our keeper coach got the opportunity to move to a Division II school in Nebraska, and he's doing really well there. So now we are in the market for a keeper coach. We've got a few names that we're kind of going through the process with right now, but we will have one by fall, and it'll be the three of us, and we split recruiting. A lot of evaluation goes on between the three of us, and as far as roles go, it's kind of, just depends on the day. There'll be days where I ask Morgan, hey, can you take the forwards and the keepers and run some finishing while I'm working with the midfielders and the defenders on, some different things. And, it's pretty cohesive. Obviously it's new because it's only been 3 weeks with it, but it's not going to change too much.
Okay. Well, now that you're transitioning into that head coach role, has your coaching style changed at all? Can you tell us about I guess your whole staff's coaching style and the team style of play?
Um, I don't think so too much. The one, or two things I'll say about myself as a coach, and I was the same way as an assistant, is one, I extremely value the relationships off the field. And we work night and day into making sure that the team is comfortable, that they can come into the office and speak their mind. Obviously things need to be done respectfully, but I give that same respect back to the team. And, I'm not much of a yeller. I believe in communication. I often will bring the team in and talk to them. Obviously in games when you've got to communicate, that's different, but I don't really consider that, yelling. And I do that because on the field it's very demanding. If you're going to play for me, you're going to accept that we have a standard that's going to be upheld every day. And if it's not, you're going to know that it's not, and not in a way that's going to demean you or tear you down, just in a way that's saying, hey, we're not doing what we need to do. We've got to get back to how we can play. It's got to be consistent. The teams that go on and are successful do the small things consistently every day. So it's not negotiable here. You've got to show up every day with discipline, because you're not always going to be motivated. There's days where sometimes, as a coach, you're not as motivated, but it's the discipline that kicks in. So, I think that you can do that more if you have a good relationship with your players, because they know that it's not coming from a mean place. It's not coming from an angry place. It's coming from a place of, I care about you, so I'm not going to let you be anything but your best.
No, I love that. Well, in terms of the off season, because we're talking here in March, and so it's that time of year. What does your typical off season routine look like for the players?
So we have our certain amount of weeks that we can train with the ball. So usually, typically January into February, we're only doing some fitness and some lifting, and we'll usually kind of offset it. So I believe this year we were doing fitness Monday, Wednesday mornings, and then we were lifting Tuesday through Thursday evenings, and that was it. As we transition into practicing like we are right now, we scratch the fitness in the mornings because we start doing that at practice. Um, and we're lifting, still Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we're practicing, Monday through Thursday, sometimes Monday through Friday, depending on the week. But we're not going that full 2 hours. It tends to be, right underneath an hour and a half, kind of right there. And it's a lot more, development stuff with individual work and trying to, develop everyone. And then in the spring, after spring break, we'll come back and we'll start focusing a little bit more on, tactics as we prepare for the fall, but same schedule roughly.
Okay. Well, Coach, you've been real generous with your time. We've talked about a lot of different things, and I want to end with one last question, and that is, if there was one thing, one nugget of info that you could communicate to parents or players that are going through this process right now, what is that one thing that you would hope that they would know?
Oh, like I said earlier, I think it's being open-minded throughout the process. You never know which school is going to be the right place for you or your child. It could be a big school. It could not be. And it's just doing research, going on visits. And I think trying to put yourself or your kid around the team and the coaches and get a good feel for it. Because, if you're just doing kind of window shopping on schools, things might look great from the outside, but they might not necessarily be. So it's just do your research and be open minded, because you never know what the best fit's going to be. And at the end of the day, it's about where you're going to be happiest. You don't want to go somewhere where you're going to end up transferring straight away because you're not happy. So, and the other part is kind of stay the course. You see, I think a lot of kids these days, if they don't play straight away, their first thing is to leave and go somewhere else. I think there's a lot to be said about people who are willing to put the work in and earn what they're given. So those two things would probably be the biggest for me.
All right. I love both of those things. So, and I appreciate that insight. Well, coach, congrats again. Wish you the best of luck in your first full season in the fall as head coach. And hopefully we'll get to talk again soon and you'll be raising that conference championship banner then.
I hope so. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you having me.
All right. Thank you.